Hi, I'm Brad Favreau, and welcome to Believe in Biddeford. The issue of a new parking garage downtown has been perplexing Biddeford for about a decade now, and I am here with Brian Phinney, the Chief Operating Officer for the City of Biddeford, to fill us in and tell us the why, when, where, who, how of the new parking garage. So, Brian, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with why. There have been reports over the years. Rich Associates conducted a report in 2006. I think that Winton Scott produced a report in 2012. Both indicated parking is necessary, but why now? Why do we need a garage now?
Well, parking is one of those strange characters. When you come to the realization that parking is absolutely needed, it's too late. You have to plan for parking. And that's what the studies that have occurred up until this point have been for, to make sure that the city is aware of the needs for parking, where those needs are, and how best to address the needs for parking. And the conclusion of pretty much all the reports that we've had is that a parking garage is the best option for managing parking. And there's also a point at which if we don't have the parking in place, we're going to start stifling development. Mm-hmm. So that's when timing comes in. So everyone can agree that parking is needed, but when you actually start construction on a garage so that the garage is available for the need, so that you don't stifle development, that's the crux of the issue right there. It's really a timing issue.
You're planning for parking today and planning for parking a few years from now.
That's correct. That's correct. You want to be ahead of the curve so that the parking is available when you actually need it.
Right. So. The site that was chosen is the former Merck site. Can you tell us how that was chosen and why that might be the best option?
Yep. As part of the design process, one of the elements that was reviewed was the best location for the parking garage. So Desmond Design Management actually did prepared a site matrix with about 20 or so items on that. Those items were weighted, and then we then looked at all of the garage designs and things like how it would support development, how that particular site would support development, the cost for construction, the availability of utilities, the look and feel of that particular area. Like I said, there's about 20 criteria, and those were weighted and then looked at against each of the potential designs to sort of maximize parking. If you're going to build a parking garage, you'd want one that allows you to maximize the spaces that you have. And based on those criteria in the review, the main energy site came to the top for a number of reasons in a number of categories.
Mm-hmm. So that site, a garage on that site will serve both the Mill District and downtown. So what's the number of cars that you expect to accommodate after full build out? Because I understand it's going to be phased.
Yep.
Once both phases or all phases are completed, what's the total number of cars that can be stored in this garage?
It'd be about 640. That would be the total design in 2 phases. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that will facilitate development in the Mill District, which is, I believe we still have about 500,000 square feet of vacant space. So good news for the Mill District, but it will also take pressure off of Main Street, I'm guessing. It's probably less than a quarter-mile walk from Main Street to the site. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. And as part of the design, there will be pedestrian connections to make sure that if someone does park in the parking garage, they can get to the future planned park at the end of Main Energy's, the 3 Lincoln Street site, the former Main Energy site, access to the Riverwalk, access through the Mill District, and access out to Lincoln Street and Main Street.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about new development for a moment. The former Merck site, if you back out the 1.5 acres that's planned for open green space, it's probably 6.5 acres. Everything from the existing stack to Lincoln Street. Without a garage being constructed on that site, would it really be more difficult to attract developers to to redevelop that site?
Yes, yeah, it would. Like I said, parking is an essential element. There's any number of parking garages that have been constructed within the state, and for a municipality to get financing and to do the construction on that and then to pay for it through the revenues, our cost of financing is significantly lower than most options for private development on that. So if we want to spur development and make sure that there's parking, it's kind of like the baseball field analogy: if you build it, they will come.
Right.
So knowing that there's parking available on that site will further enhance the interest for developers. And we've actually seen that. So when we started the planning for the parking garage, we received the interest just recently from TFIC to actually construct the garage as part of a public-private partnership, and also for a secondary development option of both sides of the garage. So, yeah.
And could you explain what TFIC is?
Treadwell Financial is a design group. They're also affiliated with Sewell Engineers.
Okay.
And it's basically a private development group that works with municipalities with public-private financing, a public-private partnership to develop infrastructure projects.
So there's different types of garage construction, and I imagine the type that was chosen or is in design currently has a lot to do with cost. So can you explain to us the different types of construction and how the cost varies based on either type?
Yep, there's two main types of construction for the garages: a steel construction, mainly steel frame, and then precast concrete. The option that Desmond Design Management has gone with is actually the precast concrete, and there are a number of benefits, especially in the New England area. So first of all, if you do precast concrete, you can pour the concrete under controlled conditions and then bring them on site and assemble everything right there. For steel, you still have to fabricate the steel. It comes in sort of an erector set. You put it together on site, and then you still have to pour concrete through that. So if the timing is such that you're pouring concrete in the wintertime, you have to change the mix of that concrete so that it cures in the wintertime, or you have to make sure that it's heated with blankets so it cures properly and you get longevity out of the concrete. So for the Northeast, and for our particular project, the precast concrete came to the top in terms of the best approach, both from a timing for construction, because the precast, you just basically assemble it, and then also for the longevity in terms of the seasonality that we have here in the Northeast.
And what's the cost difference between the two, the cost variance?
It's probably, I think it was about $40,000 to $60,000 difference. Not a significant difference, but a significant difference in terms of the timing for construction.
Okay.
The amount of time it takes to construct a precast is significantly shortened because of the control conditions of forming the concrete panels and then bringing them on site and just assembling them.
Right. So we'll get it faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is the design of the garage going to look like? What will it look like from Pearl Street? I understand that it will be located virtually in the center of the former Merck site and face Pearl Street. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Pearl Street side will be the business side of it, so to speak. And what kind of materials? What's the overall look of it?
Phase one has been designed, and Desmond Design Management did, we think, a great job in terms of their design to make it look fit in the character of the mill area. So it's basically brick with some exposed glass panels, so that the look and feel of it fits within the mill district. There are some modern elements, but also retain some of the look and feel of the mill buildings with the exposed brick.
So it'll fit well within the context it's constructed.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's nice. That's
yeah, and
nice.
both from a height standpoint and from a visual appeal from the street. Yep.
So where are we right now in the design and/or? Well, we're not constructing yet, so.
No, to make it very clear, there's been no vote on any construction of the garage. This is basically a planning process that we're in right now. So phase one has been designed, and we have the schematic on that in terms of the construction design documents and so forth.
100% Phase 1, 100% designed.
Yeah, 100% designed. Phase 2 is in the works right now, and we should have that completed design work by the end of June.
Yep.
And once those two are together, we will also have the Treadwell-Franklin analysis in terms of their financing and abilities. And at that point, it's ready for the City Council to make a decision on timing. When's the best time to actually move forward with a vote on construction and then ultimately construction.
Okay. How many levels? How many levels in the garage?
5.
5 levels?
5 levels, yeah.
And so is that a 50, 60-foot tall structure?
I would say if you're comparing it to like the Lincoln Mill building that's right on Lincoln Street,
Yeah.
that would be a good representation in terms of how the building is going to look from a height standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult to give a height distance and have people relate to that, but if you look at that building, it would be roughly that same.
So a 5-story building?
Yeah, 5-story building.
5-story building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the story's a little bit higher because of the precast concrete. They have support beams that come through there, so the actual height within the levels is about 8.5 to 9 feet, and then there's another 2 feet for the support beams. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. You mentioned Desmond is the firm that's designing it.
Yep.
I understand they're out of Boston, correct?
Yeah, they have an office in New York and Boston and Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Desmond and how they were chosen to tackle this project?
Yep. Desmond is a design firm, an engineering firm, and they actually are heavily involved in parking. So the city put out an RFQ, request for qualifications, in 2017, specifically for design firms to provide proposals on the garage and provide their qualifications. Reviewed the proposals that were submitted, did interviews, and then based on the interview results, selected Desmond for the design work.
Okay. So we're looking forward to phase 2 design,
Yep.
and then at that point, it's up to City Council to vote to commence with construction.
That's correct. The timing of construction will then, we will have the paperwork available for going out to bid, the design documents, everything that we need from that point on. It's just really a timing issue. When's the best time to move forward with construction?
Okay. And we can't speculate on when council will indeed vote on the construction of the garage, but can you tell us how long the construction process takes?
Yep, it could take anywhere from 12 to 18 months, and the variable between the 12 and the 18 is really the permitting. You know, we would have to go through planning board and also some DEP and Sauk River Corridor permitting. So, you know, we don't really have a control over the timing of of that permit process. So there's 6 months factored in there for permitting.
Yeah. Let's move on from the garage for just a moment, because I know you are involved in so many other things in the city, so many things that have to do with infrastructure. Anyone who's been downtown in the last year or 2 or 3 has noticed that we're really upgrading sidewalks and street lights and street trees, and there's a high degree of beautification that's being taken place right now. But Brian, you're involved in really upgrading the smart infrastructure of the city, as I understand it. What does that look like for Biddeford, smart infrastructure?
Yeah, one of the major projects that we're doing right now is the streetlight project. So we have purchased all of the streetlights from Central Maine Power. Currently, most municipalities lease the streetlights, so there's a tariff system that's built into the CMP rates, and if you have a street light of a certain wattage, you pay X amount per month,
Right.
and then that's multiplied by the number of those types of street lights, and that just goes on, and as part of that is the maintenance and so forth is factored into that cost. When we started looking at smart infrastructure and the costs that we're paying for the street lights, it became very clear that moving forward with us purchasing those streetlights so that we now own them and then converting the LEDs would be a significant cost savings and also allow us to do some smart infrastructure work. So Currently, we're talking about $1.6 million for the entire project for purchasing them and doing the installation of both the decorative lights and the street lights, the typical Cobra heads. But even in that first year, we're still saving about $150,000 over what we're currently paying Central Maine Power. And
just in electricity costs?
Just in electricity
Wow.
services, yeah.
And that significant.
And that includes what our cost would be for the maintenance on those, which we're now responsible for. The LED lights have a significant life expectancy, significantly greater than the current halogen lights.
Years later,
yeah,
if I understand
years
it.
later, yeah. So we're 10 years, 15 years is not a significant issue with those lights, and they actually have warranties that provide that guarantee. So our maintenance costs should go considerably down. If someone should hit the pole, say a vehicle accident, and they damage the pole, the cost of repairs of any of that is covered through the insurance. So it's not like the city has to pay for that stuff either. So, so when everything is said and done, and we're done with our financing of the project, our savings then go up to well over $400,000 a year.
Wow, that's really
so significant improvement. And one of the things that we did with the streetlights, on the top of the streetlights, well, first of all, they've actually started the installation now. So if anyone wants to see what the new streetlights look like at night or even during the daytime, if you go to the Public Works garage and drive towards Landers Street towards the airport, that section's been done. So hasn't a couple of the other side streets going out to the Airport Industrial Park Road. So all those side streets have been done as well. Mile Stretch has been done. And Fortunes Rocks Road has been done, and they're in the Middle Beach area right now. So what they're trying to do is get the heavily traveled roads done early so that those are done and they're off those streets when the heavy traffic starts, for summer travel period. So if anyone wants to see those, they can go to those streets and look at those both at night and during the day. Just driving along, you really don't notice. They're a little sleeker than what the current ones are. But at night, there's a significant difference in terms of the quality of light. On the top of those lights, there's like a little, looks like a coffee cup that's upside down, mounted on that. And we have some smart controls that are installed in that. So one of the biggest complaints that we get right now with CMP is if a street light goes out, one, we have to have it reported by a citizen, because unless we're driving on the road at night, we wouldn't necessarily notice it. So we have to have it reported by a citizen, and then it comes, then Public Works gets it, and then they call CMP, and then it gets scheduled, and then, it might be a month, 3 months before they actually come out and do the work on that. In this new system, part of that smart technology is we will get alerted when a street light goes out. So Public Works gets a notice that, hey, street light XXX is out. We can schedule it immediately within a matter of a week or 2 weeks. That's repaired and it's taken care of. So that's a really good thing. Another item that we're able to do is we can look at all the lights, and there's actually a dimmer capability on that. So if a light is in a particular residential area and it doesn't look like it's bright enough, we can actually turn it up a little bit. If it seems like it's too bright, we can actually turn it down a little bit. And nobody has to go out there to do that. We can do that right over the internet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and the other neat thing about this is that module that we have on the top can be exchanged. So in the future, if we wanted to do, just as an example, I don't know if this would ever happen, but some communities actually have Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So they would actually put those in, and they would have Wi-Fi signals, and expand Wi-Fi in a particular area.
Okay, because I was going to ask you about that, because the widespread availability of good, strong broadband is more and more important, and that's one avenue that we could take to get there for Biddeford.
Yep.
I wonder, do you have any idea what the cost would be for adding that component to the streetlights?
I don't, because there's two elements to it. There's the module itself, and then there's the Wi-Fi.
Broadband itself.
The broadband itself.
Yeah,
so
the bandwidth.
Yeah, the bandwidth. So I really wouldn't have I don't know what the cost on that would be at this point.
Okay.
I would say there's more and more interest in expanding broadband.
Yes.
So with that usually comes some more competition and reduced costs. So we would anticipate that the price would be coming down over time.
Sure.
For that.
Sure. Now,
well, a couple of the other things that some of the larger communities do is also they do air quality monitors. So they could, like if you're, say, in the Boston area and you're concerned with vehicle exhaust or something along those lines, or even up here in the summertime, one of our issues is ozone from its transport from other parts of the country, and we're sort of at the end of the tailpipe for the jet stream. So everything really goes through the Northeast before it goes then out over the Atlantic. So that's why we have ozone, warnings and so forth. It's not necessarily because of pollution from Maine, but pollution that's transported in from other parts of the country. So that module, they also have modules that have air quality sensors, so you can actually track air quality. There are some communities that modify those. For instance, down in Florida, where they have hurricanes, they could actually have they have signs for evacuation routes, but the systems can actually be timed so that if you want to designate the streets that are leaving the city, you can actually cycle the lights so it would go on and off. So if you're looking down the street, the lights would actually signal and direct you where you would go. So they would cycle on and off in a series, and it would you could see them running down away from you, and that would signal the road that you would take during the evacuation route. And since it's all over the internet, they could do that in real time. So if there was a major traffic jam in a certain area, they could put an announcement over the radio and change the lights to signal in this area.
Wow.
People could follow those out. So there's a lot of applications that
so many capabilities that are very useful.
Yeah. And at this point, it's up to the imagination. I mean, the connector is there. What people will come up with for modules and what might be beneficial is it's really wide open at this point. So
now the new street lights that are going on on Main Street and Lincoln Street, those have all smart capabilities?
No, they're decoratives and they're LEDs, but they don't have the smart technology in them. However, there's a manual adjustment that can be done on those.
Yeah.
So yeah, the same type of, and there's still a connector there. So if something needed to be done in the downtown using the decoratives, there's an adapter that's built into the system so that you could then do the same thing that we would do with the Cobra heads. It's just that at this point, with the number of those decoratives that we have, it really didn't make sense to do the extra cost for the smart controls for those at this time.
Oh, that'd be a great way to get Wi-Fi downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's still a possibility.
Still a possibility, yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about roads for a moment?
Sure.
We at City Hall have gotten, as we always do, complaints about this road or that road. I wonder if you can tell us what the priorities are as far as public works go. I'm sure everybody has their own favorite bad road, but what are the favorite bad roads of Public Works?
Yeah. So Public Works has a running list. They actually go out, like many communities do, and they do a visual assessment of the roads. They actually drive them. So they would have a number of the employees, generally the supervisory employees and the Public Works director. They literally go out and drive every road, and they rate that road based on a number of criteria. I think you can probably see already that there's sort of a built-in issue with that process. One, it's subjective. So even though I get the same training as you and we go out and review the roads, we may have a difference of opinion on whether it's a 1 or a 3 in terms of condition.
Right.
So Public Works, Jeff Demers, the Public Works Director, started looking at, how do we improve that process? He started looking at it last year. And as part of the CIP, actually found a service called Street Scan. And what that is it's a service that actually has sensors built into a pickup truck or a vehicle. And that vehicle drives every road in the community. And it does things like monitors the pavement depths, actually evaluates the cracks and the potholes, looks at where your street signs are, and maps everything from a GIS standpoint. It then goes into a computer, and everything is ranked objectively based on the computer criteria. So moving forward, we're hoping that's going to be a significant improvement in terms of how the streets are evaluated for priorities. So that, one, it'll be GIS based, so we can actually publish that map, if you will.
So it creates a map.
Yep, on the website, so that people can actually see what the priority roads are, the detailed information in terms of why the particular assessment was made goes right along with the assessment there, so in terms of the priority rankings for the roads, we're hoping to see significant improvement in that, and whittle down the really priority roads, if you will, in terms of getting those repaired. One is it's obviously funding. There are a number of priorities throughout the city, and paving is one of those issues that competes with all the other ones. So it's not that people don't care. It's not that the city council doesn't care. There's only so much money, and you have to prioritize. Right. This system will actually allow for a very objective prioritization system. Right now, if a road looks bad, they might prioritize it, but it may not be as bad as it looks. Whereas another road, there may be a sub-base issue, and that road is going to be completely destroyed in the next 8 months, and over the winter. And that every year, the Public Works priority changes, because they then go through a winter, you evaluate the roads again, and you reprioritize. This system will allow, like I said, not only to look at the cracks and the potholes, but an actual understanding of the depth of pavement and what the subbase looks like, and so forth. So by really targeting the roads that need it, we would then have a lot better handle in terms of managing the infrastructure appropriately, so that people's concern for, well, why didn't you do this road? Why didn't you do that road? It'd be much more supported by actual data. Yeah. So.
And you bring up a good point. Some roads that look bad and feel bad require nothing more than a repaving, simple mill and fill, what I think is what the construction industry, the term they use. But others really require a full reconstruction all the way down to the base, and much more costly. So this app seems like that will separate the two easily and set some really strong priorities.
It should really help in the future. And that the service, I believe, is scheduled to start mid-July.
Okay.
So they will do
so it's already in the
first
works.
assessment mid-July, and they'll be able to use that data for the next construction season.
In that time, will the entire city be mapped?
Yes. The entire city, every road in the city.
Good. Wow, that's encouraging. What other infrastructure or roads, anything else you can talk about, Brian, you want to talk about while we have the opportunity?
I guess just a couple of quick ones. Moving some finances around, the current surface lots collect revenue, and that revenue has been put into a separate fund, and that basically pays for the maintenance of those lots and so forth. The
lots we're talking about are those downtown that are between Washington, Alfred, Main, and Jefferson. Is that correct?
As well as the wastewater lot and the lot for
that's right.
The gas, what we call the gas house lot. So all the colored lots that we refer to. So those have been, the revenues have been moved from a separate account, and those are addressed in a separate account in terms of their expenses. What that's done is it's freed up about $40,000 in the current budget, and just recently there was a council order to pave 2 additional roads. So that money that was freed up, that's being paid for through the revenues of the maintenance of the lots, freed up money in the general fund, and that money is now going to pave a couple of additional roads to the tune of about $40,000. So that's a positive thing, because again, the roads are priority. So by doing that little change and having the fees actually support the surface lots, there's $40,000 that was now applied to the roads to help shorten the list of priorities.
Right. So it sounds like we're getting more efficient.
Certainly getting more efficient. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and in terms of the Main Street project, one of the major questions came up is, why is the Main Street project stopping at Elm Street? And basically it boils down to funding. The bump outs and the new sidewalks and so forth. We've done those from the Alfred intersection all the way up now to Elm Street. So the funding is sufficient to get us through the intersection right at Elm Street, so both sides of the road, and people can see the sidewalks are going in now, and that project will be extending pretty much through, the majority of the summer, July anyways, to, get that done. But when it's done, it'll be a significantly improved look and feel of the downtown.
Yeah, so, yeah. One point that is only tangentially related, I was speaking to a concerned citizen yesterday about the large planters that are now located in the street on downtown on the areas that are paved with cobblestones. And this person's concern was that it makes it more difficult to parallel park if it's very near a legitimate parking spot, or it makes it more difficult for buses to pull over where they need to. Any way we could get those placed on the bump outs themselves?
Yeah, I mean, the location, the selected locations for those was basically to ensure a traffic calming of the slowing of traffic.
Yes, we all agree with that.
That's
yes.
the primary reason for the planters. In terms of the specific location, if they need to be moved 2 feet one way or the other, that certainly can be done. In terms of like parallel parking, they're no closer than an existing curb would be. Unless there's a particular location where, because of the street design, one should be moved. Again, if anyone has any particular complaints about specific planters, they can just send that information off to Jeff Demers, the Public Works Director, and they'll certainly take a look at those, because those can be adjusted, 2 feet one way or the other, to accommodate.
So we're listening.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, Brian, thanks so much for explaining all this to us today. Again, I'm Brad Favreau. This is Believe in Biddeford, and look for us again soon. Thank you very much.